Hi, my name is Ashley Gilbert, and I'm going to be talking about the benefits of writing by hand. Now, has already been established that writing by hand has an effect on how you remember things. But what hasn't really been talked about is whether or not writing by hand affects anything else, such as your reading capabilities. So the two articles that I looked at dealt with that. Okay, so my Popular Press article was written by Tanya Basu for Time Magazine's online psychology section, and it was written in August of 2015. It starts off talking about a Bic pen commercial that details all these different benefits to writing by hand that the article later goes on to actually refute, save one, which is that writing by hand benefits your reading capability. To support this claim, Basu brings in a psychologist, Dr. Karen James, who talks about how her area of study is early childhood brain development and how writing by hand as a child improves your letter recognition, which in turn improves your reading capabilities. Basu then goes on to detail more of the findings that James found in her study that she did with Laura Engelhardt from 2012, and the fact that the same areas of the brain light up, and that light up when an adult is reading, also light up in a child who is learning how to write. And then it ends with a quote from James saying that their research is only correlational and they don't have any definite facts, but they do have a lot of suggestive evidence that supports this. And then my peer-reviewed article was the study that was quoted in the Popular Press article. It was conducted by Karen James and Laura Engelhardt, and it was done in 2012. The question that this study set out to answer was whether or not motor tasks such as tracing, typing, or writing by hand benefited someone's reading capabilities later on, and if so, of the three, which one had the biggest impact. To do this, they gathered a group of pre-literate children, and they gave them each a set of geometric shapes and letters and asked them to either trace, type, or write them by hand, and then later asked them to perform a recognition task and graded their performance, and also looked at brain scans while they were doing this task. And they found that all three motor tasks did improve their performance on the letter recognition task, but by far writing by hand did better, and it lit up more of the same areas of the brain that they were looking at. For the audience, for the two, they were very different. So although they were talking about the same topic, they came across as very different from each other. The peer-reviewed article, the study, was written for other psychologists, and it used a lot more scientific language, and it quoted a lot of other different studies that probably other psychologists who were studying in this area would actually recognize. And then the Popular Press article didn't use much scientific language at all. They did actually identify which areas of the brain were being looked at, but that was as technical as they got. And their language use was a lot more casual. They basically argue essentially the same thing. The peer-reviewed study actually goes a little bit more in depth and looks at not just writing by hand, but also other motor tasks, and specifically argues that of these motor tasks, writing by hand is better. They both use scientific arguments as well, not just opinions. So I thought that was something that was really interesting of the Popular Press article, because it wasn't highly opinionated. They both use scientific research to support their claims, and they both cited their studies so that you could go and read more about it if you were interested. By far, the peer-reviewed article did so much more often, but even the Popular Press did so. Basu 2015 only talked about the results of the study. However, they really didn't talk about much about the methods and why these methods were used or any of that. And they only used the one study and the one psychologist's opinion. While James and Engelhardt, 2012, cited many different studies and included the important details for each of the studies so you could follow along if you didn't recognize the study. So in conclusion, although they were written for very different audiences, they're actually more alike than they aren't. And I would say that the Popular Press article was a good representation of the peer-reviewed article. Thank you. And here are my sources.